Technology should help businesses move faster, operate smarter, and reduce complexity. At Advanced 2000, that belief has guided everything we do for more than 30 years. We are a global managed IT, cybersecurity, and private cloud provider dedicated to your productivity. We work hard to keep your teams productive and your data private. We don't just support your tech in the cloud, we support it where it matters most, in your offices. Our end users rate us 4.7 out of 5 stars, with more than 60,000 reviews each year. We power mission-critical applications, servers, and desktops with predictable performance and lower cost. Security isn't an add-on. It's built into everything we design, deploy, and manage. Our approach is simple and proven. We assess, modernize, and support your business. Rely on Advanced 2000 to modernize your IT and help grow your business today.
Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm Katie Shaner, and on behalf of the Advanced 2000 team, I'd like to thank you for joining our monthly webinar series. Today's discussion is all about staying ahead in a rapidly evolving AI-powered environment. A few housekeeping items before we begin. This session is being recorded and will be sent out post-event. Please submit any questions you have in the Q&A at any time throughout the event. We'll be checking and answering as we go, and again at the wrap-up. With that, I'll pass it over to Joe Fargnoli, who will be introducing our session today. Joe?
All right, thank you, Katie. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. We're living through one of the most transformative and challenging periods in modern business history. Artificial intelligence is accelerating at a pace we've never seen before. It brings enormous promise, driving innovation, improving productivity, and unlocking new opportunities across every industry. But it also introduces a new class of risk that many businesses are not fully prepared for. And the reality is this: the old ways of operating and the old ways of securing your business are no longer enough. The same AI technologies that can empower your organization are now being weaponized against it. Attackers are using AI to generate highly convincing phishing attacks, bypass traditional security controls, and identify and exploit vulnerabilities faster than ever. We're seeing deepfake technology impersonate executives. We're seeing AI-driven malware that evolves in real time, and attacks that once took months to plan can now be executed in just minutes. For business leaders, this fundamentally changes the risk equation. Cybersecurity is no longer a support function. It is a core business issue. Every system your team relies on, every email, every file, every transaction now sits on top of IT and increasingly on top of AI. And in this environment, tools alone are no longer enough. Today, we're going to break this down. We're going to look at how the cyber threat landscape is changing and what practical steps businesses can take to protect themselves and continue operating with confidence. Our goal is simple: to give you clarity and help you make better decisions for your business. We appreciate you being here, and we welcome your feedback and ideas for future sessions. Now let's get started. I'd like to start by introducing our panelists. From our partner, Sophos, we have Dave Deckard. Dave is a channel SPs. And we also have Ed Korsgaard with us, who's a senior sales engineer with Sophos. And lastly, we have Brian Moad, CEO Advanced 2000. So welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining. To get things started out, I want to ask a question. Brian, I'd like to address this to you. We hear about this term zero-day vulnerabilities. Can you explain them to us and maybe give us a little bit of background in terms of your familiarity with zero-day vulnerabilities?
Yes, Joe, thank you. Thank you for the intro and welcome, Sophos, Ed, and Dave. So zero-day vulnerability is a vulnerability that's unknown. And the way it gets to be known, the U.S. cyber defense is a hybrid machine. There's government, there's the military, there's private company, and there's cloud providers like we are, MSPs. And there's a collaboration between all these entities in order to share. And if someone discovers something that's unique, it is shared upstream or even downstream. So it's a vulnerability that's nobody knows about, and that attackers would exploit to get into systems that are out there.
Ed, Dave, any comments on zero-day vulnerabilities?
100%. So as Brian mentioned, zero-day vulnerabilities get their name just from the fact that nobody knows that they exist yet, right? It's a 0-day. And different companies have different ways of detecting these. Now, I can't speak to many other companies, but at Sophos, I can give you an example of how we detect those. So we actually use 3 different sources to detect a 0-day. We have a dedicated threat research organization there called Sophos XOps, and they include our CTU, which is our counter threat unit. They themselves are constantly out on the internet researching events, attacks, indicators of compromise, looking for these unknown threats that are floating around out in the wild. We also have the benefit of getting live telemetry from roughly about 600-ish thousand customers that we help and protect. So, I hate to put it this way, but there's oftentimes a patient zero. There's the first person to find the 0-day, and we can leverage that telemetry to benefit everybody else. And then, as Brian mentioned, we share information with others, right? We participate in a broader vulnerability disclosure ecosystem, which does include the government and does include other private organizations, where we share what we found. We share that live data because we want everyone to be protected. It shouldn't just be limited to one company, right?
Cool.
So
Thank you,
I want to
guys.
just, Joe, I want to share the one slide that I wanted to share with the group, and I'm glad you asked about this, and then we can jump into the other questions. Let me share my screen real quick, and I'm going to go ahead and share this slide here. Let me expand here and share. So if you look at, can you see my screen? It says facts
Yes.
of cyber. So I just want to share, those are just very quick facts. And I have one slide, and I go to guys at Sophos has a couple slides. If you look at today's email attacks, cyber facts on the ground, attacks are primarily coming through email. 91% of cyber attacks start by phishing. 94, and we could talk about what phishing is. We talked about it before. 94% of malware is delivered via email. 70% of phishing use domain spoofing, basically pretending it's your domain coming from advanced2000.com. It's really coming from somewhere else. A lot of companies don't have certain standard in place, and about 2/3 of attacks are somehow state-sponsored. I just want to state those as facts. Who's being targeted? It's typically small businesses. 99% of businesses in the U.S., 99.9% of businesses in the U.S. are small businesses, are businesses with less than 500 employees. And they constitute 46% of the U.S. workforce and also 44% of U.S. GDP. So they are a huge part of our economy ecosystems. Just because they are 44% of the U.S. GDP, the other 1% that provides the other larger part of the GDP, believe it or not, those small businesses are the backbone to those bigger businesses. So if you cripple the small businesses, you will cripple the larger businesses like the Amazon and the Microsoft and so on. So if you look at today's cyber attacks, those smaller businesses are easier targets than the bigger businesses. That's why we have companies like Sophos helping us. And then if you look at the actual thing that Ed was talking about, who is in charge of the basically U.S. cyber defense, it is not one person. Obviously, the government has a huge intelligence. They have an organization called MITRE, MITRE. They have several that detect these type of zero-day vulnerabilities. They have the military, and they trickle that down to other companies, including private companies like Sophos that sits probably in this area and other cloud providers and so on. You as an organization, that's why it's very important to have your latest patches and your latest things. I wanted to show this chart just to kind of lay the land so you guys understand what happens from a big picture standpoint. So sorry, I take a little bit more time here. So Joe, yes, you can go ahead.
No, it's a great point, Brian. Thanks for sharing that. And, as we know, attackers are now using AI to automate reconnaissance, evasion, and payload generation. So we're kind of in the era of AI versus AI. In your view, who's winning and who do you think will win?
So, in terms of who's winning, it's really who has the faster, the more tighter systems. So so if your systems are lacking, you don't have the speed, you don't have the visibility. Visibility is going to be key, and that's what we love about the Sophos platform. They're one of the unique partners that we deal with. That when you get into their platform, they have visibility across their ecosystem. We as Advanced 2000, we have a visibility that goes beyond just Sophos. It goes beyond because once we get into cybersecurity, it should be a layered approach. So by having the visibility, having the speed, then you would be winning, and having the resiliency, the recovery capability, then you will win.
If I could add into that just for a moment too, and I think when you're talking about tool versus tool, AI versus AI, I think one of the advantages is that working with a consultant in some sort of way, right? Having that person that can bring in the peoples and the processes and the other elements into it, not just the tools.
Yeah, and I would say what Dave said is actually very critical. A lot of companies today, people don't realize. I'm in the IT business. So I'm a technologist, so I perhaps take it for granted. But if you are a law firm, you're an accounting firm, you're an AEC firm, relying only on your IT staff to basically give you the big picture of everything is the wrong approach, especially nowadays. And I'm not saying maybe it might be that they're doing a fantastic job. I'm not in any way criticizing those guys. It is an overwhelming task that does require partnerships, having partnerships with others.
Yeah. So on that point, guys, we see the industry shifting towards API first and AI native architectures. Ed, maybe you want to address this. How does your platform overcome the limitations of traditional agent or gateway-based models? Some have said that it's API first versus legacy architecture. Call that for us, if you would, please.
No, 100%. I mean, the framing, that question is almost a false dichotomy. Agent-based and API first, they aren't opposites. Modern security platforms, they need to have both because the attack surface itself spans both, right? We need deep privileged visibility on the endpoints, and that does require an agent. And we need to have that interaction with identity, cloud, email, SaaS solutions, and any third-party telemetry, which includes APIs. And a platform that has only one of those is going to be blind in the other direction. So we need to be able to ingest telemetry from the agents on the machines to see what's happening locally on the network. But we also need that information that exists out in the cloud or out in these SaaS applications where we have the people interacting with things that the local network just doesn't see on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, and to that point, that's actually just to provide that. Would it be okay if I shared that one visual? Because it actually speaks directly to this. Let's see, there we go, screen 2. All right, and there we are. Okay, cool. So, kind of looking at that, right? When you look at all of the different
Dave, I don't think we're seeing your screen.
organization like Advanced 2000s is, oh, it's not sharing.
It says you started, just taking a minute.
It's taking a minute to render. While that is coming up, and hopefully it comes up here in a second, you know, just to kind of address what we're talking about, is that, there's many different tools from Microsoft tools to identity tools like Duo. There's all these different things that organizations are going to use. Having that platform that's actually going to be able to get all of the data from it. So then that way, if you do have a suspected incident or breach, we then can kind of solve it, kind of like a police would solve a cold case, right? They're going to take all of those different um, clues and all those different contextual clues and put them together to get a better picture. And I don't know that it's showing. It doesn't seem like it's cooperating with me. Are you guys not seeing it still?
No, it's not. I would take it down.
Yeah, I'll just take it down. There we go. So, but at any rate, it's a point well made, right? That we need visibility into multiple things, not just the agent, but also the other tools that you're using, and that's great that Advanced 2000 is using that reach.
Cool. So, hey, Brian, I want to go back to a point you made earlier. Now, we know that AI allows attackers to iterate attacks in hours instead of months. That's
Right.
kind of scary. How do defenders realistically keep up with that pace?
They really have to be faster. You got to move in from a reactive approach to more of a predictive, automated approach, from manual or a batch to more of a continuous monitoring, from fragmented to more unified platform, kind of like what we provide with our cybersecurity risk scorecard. And I go back to saying a unified platform. There's no such thing as one platform that's going to cover you all. So our unified platform is basically a visibility on a collection of other platforms. So by going, I think Ed mentioned or Dave mentioned Microsoft, having everything in one platform is not a good thing for your company. So having a multi-layered platform from multiple vendors that you can have complete visibility over is very, very good thing. Just keep in mind, to go ahead and do these type of attacks today with these high-powered GPUs, anybody can pick up a gaming GPU. I did mention, a lot of these attacks, 2/3 of them are state-sponsored. They might not look, they are state-sponsored directly or indirectly. So anybody can buy these very high-performance GPUs and create this type of environment where, you can iterate very, very fast. So that's why you got to move into more of a predictive, automated, and continuous monitoring approach.
Thank you, Brian. I just want to remind everybody, we are looking to take questions. If you have any questions, you can put it in the chat and we will field them. But Ed, that was a conversation about the speed of threat evolution. Again, AI versus AI. What about the role of human expertise? As AI automates more of the security operations, what remains uniquely human in cybersecurity, and where is human judgment still critical?
And that's, a great and super important question. If we look at what has happened here in the past just couple of months, and I'm not going to name any names, but we've seen where some companies have kind of let AI make decisions, and I don't want to use the word run rampant, but get out there and make some of the important decisions, and it has not been 100% successful. A lot of companies are having to pull back some of the activities that AI has done. And we have to have those human guardrails in place. And I don't want to say the final decision, but there has to be human interaction in AI to make sure that AI is seeing the question properly, right? AI only knows about what it's been trained on and can only make decisions based on what it has seen and what it believes is correct. And that's where human AI, because the human brain thinks differently than AI. And we definitely need to be involved, not necessarily in every single step of the process, but definitely in the later steps of the process, right? Let the AI do those initial investigations. Let it take all the massive amounts of data and turn that into something that a human can react on more quickly. And then throw those humans in there to be able to respond in a faster manner with the leverage from AI.
So there is some hope of there remaining job security in the era of AI, you're saying?
Definitely, definitely.
Okay.
We are not at that point yet.
Okay. Well, let's talk about a risk factor, something we call adversarial AI. Brian, I know you've got some experience with this. What can you tell us are the biggest risks of adversarial AI? This is where attackers manipulate or poison models. How do we defend against that?
Think of AI as this employee that doesn't know. First of all, data is the fuel for AI. So if you fuel the AI garbage data, you're going to get garbage out. So the AI is not going to figure, it's not going to go in and tell you no. Now, some of those models that you see out there, they are pre-trained on existing data. So, the way I look at things, I might be a little bit off. And by the way, Ed was mentioning a company before. It's Anthropic, and it's okay to name names. They released their AI, and this AI, was a hacking AI, so it found a lot of vulnerabilities. So when you get into adversarial AI, I personally believe in a private AI and having an isolated environment. I believe in creating strict data boundaries and human validation layers on the AI in order to really get the desired outcome. Otherwise, think of it. If you put your data on an AI, hey, how do you create this? And it creates this for you. It can also tell you how to destroy this. So make sure you keep your data private to yourself if you don't want anybody to know about it, just in general here.
Yeah, good advice. Very good advice. Ed and Dave, let's talk about visibility beyond the endpoint. We know that modern attacks move across endpoints, identity, cloud apps, and data. How do you provide unified visibility across the entire attack surface, not just the endpoints?
That's just a great question. And last year in 2025, I believe it was 2/3, give or take, of incidents that were seen involved some type of identity compromise. And the endpoint only story, having security just on the endpoint, that story is over, and it has been for a while. You need to have a platform that looks at all the data, not just the endpoint data, right? We need endpoint, we need identity, we need network, we need email, we need cloud workload. We need all of this data in one place so that it can get correlated and it can get investigated by an analyst. And the reason for this is if we have our data in different locations and different analysts are looking at these, whether those analysts are human or AI, they're not going to be able to see that big picture. They're not going to be able to put together all the little hints that can identify a compromise, right? So as an example, the prerequisite for detecting lateral movement, we can't see an attack move from a compromised identity to a cloud app if the data exists in two different places, right? We would have to have two different tools that are communicating with each other and sharing that information in some way in order to see that movement, right? That lateral movement from one to another. So it's really important to have something that can see the big picture, so to speak.
And what provides that visibility, Ed?
So you have to have some type of platform that can ingest all of that data and store it, and then make that available maybe to itself or maybe to others. It doesn't always have to be, and this is where we can get into conversations like a SIM or something like that. I don't want to jump in that deep, but we have to have that centralized platform that stores the data and either it itself analyzes it or makes that data available to others for analysis.
Yeah, I want to add something to Ed here regarding what he brought in. The endpoint, if there's no payload in terms of malware, like Ed mentioned, it's a lot of attackers are going over trying to steal identity, and where the AI is very helpful is your behavior. Okay, I have a rule: if I've never emailed you, you're going right to my trash. This is just the way I've done it in my own. I've been doing it for years because I got a lot of emails. But the AI will actually look at your behaviors and also look at these things that, and today where you're actually having to train your employees to, make sure this email. We talked. Most of the attacks are coming. A lot of them are coming via emails and are pretending there's somebody else and phishing and all that kind of stuff. So you get into where the AI is able to find these things where you might be just kind of overlooked it. And so it also looks at your behavior, and that might be very helpful in terms of that. So.
Yeah, if I can just expand on that just a touch. I always like to think of it in terms of it just very simply in how we would protect our homes, right? If you dial back to how we protected our homes 30, 40 years ago, maybe just a gate and a lock was fine, right? Because there was only so many vectors that were being used, right? There's only so many ways that people were trying to gain access. But now people that commit crimes have become much more advanced. Now you have to have other things. Now we have a Ring doorbell, right? We have visibility on the front porch. We now have people that will use cameras. We've had to come up with different advances because the vectors and the areas of attack have expanded exponentially. And so, now some of these different tools that have come out along, and even when we think about the tools, right? It used to be just AV. Right? We didn't worry about beyond AV. We didn't think about things too much more. Now we have to think about all this vast array of tools. It can be very overwhelming. Fortunately, you guys have a good handle on that.
So when you look at behavioral, I just want to go back to behavioral, like
Sure.
Ed's or Dave's behavioral thing will be different than mine. So the AI gets trained on my behavior, and that's why I personally believe in a private AI more than those public AIs, because there could be a leak there, and the injection, the poisoning, and then who's accountable. I like accountability, but yeah. So that's the way I look at it.
Okay, great ideas, guys. Well, so we're talking a lot about ideas on what can be done to defend a small business or a medium business or an enterprise business. But let's talk about what happens when folks don't put in the right protections and bad things happen, what we call mean time to reality. How quickly can a business actually recover operations after an attack using the Sophos platform alone? I know, Brian, you've got some direct experience in this. What can you tell us? What can a business owner expect in terms of a mean time to recovery or mean time to reality?
Well, the beautiful thing about, like, going back about the Sophos platform or any platform, I'm trying to make this as a Sophos sale. Having managed detection and response, those are very, very important. You as a company running your business and relying only on your IT people to detect and do this is something. Think of it like the typewriter days. So you really have to have subscribed to type of a high-end managed detection and response, having the also that visibility. You should have an executive dashboard to look and see. It's kind of going and getting your blood work and getting that all your metrics, your blood works are all great, and you go back and look at them anytime you want. You should have that as an executive. That's missing today. So we've developed it into our risk scorecard that's in our customer portal for clients. But the biggest thing that people miss is the backups. And by the way, these attackers, the first thing they do is they will go in there and lock up your backups. They're smart. They're not people that aren't smart. Remember, many of them are state sponsored. They're here to hurt the ecosystem, the U.S. ecosystem. If they're able to hurt the smaller business, they would hurt the entire country, really. It creates a problem for everybody. So you have to have backups that are solid. There's a thing called immutable backups. They should be isolated. There's a thing called air gap, where basically they're disconnected after a backup's done. They're completely disconnected from any network. Nobody can access them in order to be able to recover from these type of things. So in our case at Advanced 2000, because I want to be able to sleep at night, a lot of our customers don't know this, but we have a backup to a backup to a backup, and a lot of them are completely offline, which doesn't exist in the public cloud. So if you put your data on Azure and AWS, and I'm not mocking any of those guys, you still have to do those type of measures yourself as a business owner or the IT staff that are doing the work. So make sure your backup are immutable, they're isolated, they're taken offline, because things can happen, and you want to be able to also test your backup. Okay, test your backup. When is the last time you've ever really tried to restore things over and over? We even test our backup if they are ransomware. For ransomware, we have a tool that check if the backup itself is actually corrupt. In addition, that's to the backup. So you really want to take those type of measures.
Great. Thank you, Brian. Again, I want to put any questions in the chat. We'll field any questions as they come in. But
yeah, I do want to point out, not to interrupt Joe. I'm going to interrupt Joe.
Let's talk about the future. Let's talk
for a second.
future. Replace or integrate. Now, do you see your platform eventually replacing the need for multiple IT and security vendors? Or what we hear often is that businesses are stitching together multiple solutions. What does that future look like?
You know, an honest answer to that, it's integrate, not replace, right? Any vendor, including ourselves, who tells a CISO or someone at the C-suite that they can rip out every single other security tool and run a single vendor is probably trying to sell something that hasn't met their CISO's board or just is including too much future things that don't exist yet. Enterprise security stacks generally today have 50 plus tools possibly for a reason. There's specialization, there's procurement cycles, regulatory requirements, acquisition, and even just simple risk management. The realistic path for probably the next 5 years is fewer tools, better integrated. That's kind of the goal. We don't expect to replace everything, but we aim to integrate with what is there, right? The idea of meeting you where you are today. Companies have made investments. We want to leverage those investments, and any good product should be able to do that so that you're not re-spending on something that you've already purchased. And having a platform that integrates with what's there, can leverage with what's there, right? Investigate, remediate, monitor, and work with other platforms, other vendors is, in my mind, what would be the ideal solution for the future.
Got it. Again, Brian, I know you've got some experience here. What are your thoughts on replacing versus integrating?
The old saying, put all your eggs in one basket, you can have a problem. So that's why what we've done is we call it a shell as our dash security scorecard to basically measure and provide. As a business owner, you want to always be able, hey, I want to look at things quickly, get a good, clean bill of health. And I want to be able, I don't want to deal with the complexities nor if every single platform will always have a weakness and have a problem. So I would say definitely integrate and present it into a very simplified way we can very easily understand it.
Great, thank you. Again, Brian, let's look at this from another angle. As AI comes on board and it starts making more security decisions, like many other applications of AI, how do we ensure transparency and especially explainability? Like if the AI makes a decision, we can explain why it made that decision so businesses can trust automated responses. And what can you say about the cycle time that it takes to get businesses to that place of comfort and trust?
I think you should always have an audit trail. I mean, relying 100% on AI to spin stuff for you is a very, very dangerous thing. I don't think it should ever, that's my opinion, never exist. Again, data is the fuel of AI. So if there's bad data out there that the AI has collected, it's going to give you bad responses, called AI hallucination. So I would say audit trails, decision log, and a human override capability. Now, with a private AI, you really can control a lot of these things, and you can control a lot of these things. So there should always be an oversight. Security decisions impact a business out there must be explained to executive, not just just collecting data from the AI and saying this is good.
Mm-hmm. Ed, Dave, any thoughts about explainability of automated AI security decisions?
I mean, I'll throw in, from our point of view, trust in automated security decisions comes from three things, not just one. It's auditability, which Brian has already mentioned. That's a big one. What did the system decide and why? To us, human oversight on consequential actions, right? Something reviewed that isolates a host before it happens, so that the AI isn't taking action that could take down a business without human oversight in there. And one thing that I didn't hear is the track record, right? Has the system been correct enough times in a similar situation? Has it learned from the data that it's been given?
Keeping score.
Keeping score, exactly. And that to me is another big one, because that track record and being able to see that is going to be really important in future decisions of should it be doing that work, or should we be passing that type of decision to a human, right?
Yeah. I mean, coming from somewhat like not as heavy a technical end in this industry and coming more on the business side, I think that the whole notion of, verifying your sources and making those decisions, from the human process is important. And yesterday, I just heard on NPR, actually, taking us out of technology, right? There was a lawyer who was called to task, actually barred from practicing for a period of time, because the brief that was written mostly generated from AI, and it turns out that some of the cases didn't even exist. And the lawyer called that, or I'm sorry, the judge called the lawyer out on it, initially denied, then agreed, yes, I used AI to get all of this information. So there's a great example, whether you're looking at technology or anything else. This is a great example of how somebody put all of their trust in AI without having that human capacity behind it to make that judgment call. Ultimately, pretty catastrophic consequences.
Yeah. Let's follow up on that point, the idea of human versus AI. But let's look at the Security Operations Center, the SOC. Now, you guys operate a SOC. What percentage, based on your experience, of threat response is truly autonomous AI versus dependent on human SOC analysts? How does it scale during large-scale attacks? So normally, what is the human AI breakdown? And then when really bad things happen, how does that ratio change?
That is a tricky question, because we don't have a true breakdown. There are some decisions that can be made by AI. And again, what we look at is business impact. If the AI makes a decision and the decision is wrong, what is the impact to the business? And because of that, we have a deep human oversight over our AI. Now, not saying that 0% can be driven by AI, because when we detect especially known items, known malware, known attacks, we will have AI jump in and quickly remediate those events. But when it comes to items that we are not 100% sure of, then the human element needs to be there, right? The human element really needs to be there. Now, to us, the human element benefits from the AI. The AI can do the investigation. The AI can take all of the data, make it human readable, but not just human readable, able to be consumed by a human more quickly. Pull out the important points, get rid of the noise. And the goal is to speed up that loop between when detection occurs and when we can take action. We want to cut that down to the smallest window possible.
Now, Ed, would it be fair to say that in many industries, we're learning how to work with AI? The human AI teaming relationship is really being worked out in real time. And no one's got it down perfectly, but everyone should be working that relationship. And is it fair to say that Sophos is probably leading the pack in terms of the human AI relationship when it comes to AI threat detection?
We'd love to think we are. Unfortunately, there hasn't been anything published that says we are, not yet, but we are very, very heavily invested in it. I can't say too much right now, but we have some new products coming out soon that focus specifically on keeping AI secure. A lot of what Brian has been saying, especially in the fuel for AI, poisoning AI, things like that. And I'm sure we're not the only company doing this, but we are actively working on protections and guardrails for that. As far as are we leading the pack, I'd like to think we are. We are heavily invested in it. We use it every day. We have a lot of initiatives internally to use it in a day-to-day capacity, but at the same time, we're feeding back to our AI teams how it's going. What is it doing right? What is it doing wrong? Where can we make it better? What training is lacking? And that all adds into creating a better, I hope, AI.
Great. Well,
I'd
hey, let's
say
go back to that idea.
70-30. 70-30.
70-30.
Put a number on it.
All right.
So 70
Well, let's
AI, 30 human. That would be my prediction.
So let's go back to this idea of the fuel. Data is the fuel for AI. We've talked about ideas around learning off of past data and training AIs on that. But let's look at the idea of data ownership and data sovereignty. When that's happening for a customer community, where is that customer data stored? Who owns it? How is it protected from being used to train shared AI models? Let's talk about that. And Brian, you probably have the most experience here. If you could take that for us.
So I mean, obviously, we built our own cloud for that specific reason, and we've built our own AI for that specific reason. I believe personally in huge privacy. I don't, like to put my stuff on the public cloud. Every time data sitting on public cloud, I kind of a little bit frown upon that because there is that lack of accountability. To say that today the data that we have, and I'm not going to, accuse. I mean, they've admitted it. They're like at GitHub. A lot of developers put their source code on GitHub, kind of a place to store their source code. GitHub came in and said, "Okay, we're changing our terms and conditions. We're going to train our model on your source code." So basically, that entire intellectual property that all these developers developed became GitHub's. It's the biggest theft of intellectual property in human history, in my opinion. So that's why I really believe in private AI. Now, if you want to put stuff out there, in my opinion, make sure it's stuff that it's not some very important intellectual property. You put your customer list out there, you put your creativity out there. It's a risk. So until I think legislators and the legal part catches up to that, I think it's a little bit of a wild west, and people need to be concerned about that.
How about from your perspective, Ed, Dave? Data ownership and sovereignty. When you guys are training your model, who owns the data? How's it protected?
Yep. So from the Sophos side, I can tell you, in our view, the customer owns their data. Flat, plain out. They want us to delete it, we'll delete it. But we store that data, and we store it securely in regional data centers that will meet your needs. So depending on what your business is and what needs are defined, that is how we will store the data. Now, the specifics of that depend on the product, your region, sometimes contractual preferences. And when it comes to training, so we use aggregated threat telemetry, but never customer identifying context. So we want to be able to find the patterns without having to use the individual exact bits of information, right? And here's the thing is, the idea is that new detections that are written from one incident can help protect everybody. And that kind of goes back to that idea of the 0 day that we first mentioned, right? Is you're going to have that patient zero. You're going to have that first iteration of the event. And we want to make sure that we can leverage that to secure the rest of the customers.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Hey, I want to again invite everyone to put any questions in the chat. We'd love to field your questions. But let me move on until we get some questions. And I want to talk about a word that should strike the fear in the heart of any business owner as if it were a Viking raid. That fear is ransomware. Right, let's do a ransomware reality check. And I want to do it from two angles, one from the infrastructure angle and the other from the platform angle. Brian, you run and operate a data center. Ransomware encrypts both production and, if ransomware were to encrypt both production and connected backups, what in your architecture guarantees recoverability?
Having backups that are air-gapped, that aren't really connected to your network, having backups that basically you tried to restore from and you saw that work. So it is a process. So like I said earlier, we do have a backup to a backup to a backup. So we not only have offline backups for customers, we test the backups to make sure they are not encrypted. So we go back to previous backups and we do these recovery tests to make sure that our backups that are backup to a backup going back, that we have tools actually to do this, that they're not encrypted, they're not poisoned in any way. So you have to start thinking of things this way, because Ed and Sophos can train the AI and other companies can train the AI, and you can have those security all in place and all that. Stuff could happen. And if they do happen, you want to be able to recover, and you want to be able to recover fast. You should test your recoverability speed, not only as well, and your, that you are actually backing up everything and have a backup to a backup to a backup for everything.
Right, Ed and Dave, over to you. Same question. Ransomware reality check. If ransomware encrypts both production and connected backups, what in your architecture or your platform, from a platform standpoint, helps to guarantee recoverability?
So Sophos is not in the backup game, not yet anyway. So we don't deal with backups themselves. That's, we would leave that to our partners like Advanced 2000. But what we have is we have a really advanced anti-ransomware system built into our product. We call it CryptoGuard. It's been around for a long, long time now. And it's this product. So even if the backups themselves were encrypted, we would work to prevent the local data, right? The working data from being encrypted. So from a security standpoint, we want to be able to detect that a ransomware attack is active. We would stop that attack, and we have the ability to revert anything that has been encrypted. So that is our point of view on it, is the backups, while being super important because something will happen at some point in time and we have to have backups, but to prevent that from ever hitting the live data.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, I mean, and I want to add, I want to go ahead. Yeah, sorry, Dave.
Oh, no problem at all. I think you both make really valid points, right? There's a couple of things that you had spoken to, Brian, about, the backups, having CryptoGuard. It all speaks to that layered approach, right? And that importance of that layered approach. When I look at it just in general conversations I've had with businesses, I met a owner of a manufacturer, and that owner of that manufacturer told me that he had been encrypted. I expressed some empathy. It sounded like he was working with his provider, but because he was actually working directly with the provider of the software, not somebody like Advanced 2000, kind of as that intermediary that eyes on the software. The conversation I was having with him happened in the second week of January. I said, "When did you get encrypted?" And he's like, "Oh, it was Christmas." The week of Christmas. And I thought to myself, man, can you imagine being at least partially down, even just partially down for that period of time? So that layered approach of the backups and CryptoGuard and other techniques is really critical.
Yeah, I want to point out regarding, you mentioned layered approach. And yeah, you have to have this layered approach. You also have to have your backups completely offline, not connected to any digital things. And those backups themselves need to be tested for recoverability. If you don't have that, you can rely on a tool. And you guys, Sophos has a great tool but those aren't guarantees. That's the only guarantee, having your stuff completely disconnected offline and tested over and over again. That's something you should have as a business owner.
Yeah. So Brian, again, taking the position of the business owner, last webinar, we talked about the classes of hackers that are out there, the state actors, the financially motivated actors, the vengeful actors. And we talked a little bit about the geopolitical reality of the world, that there are plenty of people who are motivated to hack small, medium, and enterprise businesses. And you pointed out the extent of the small business supply chain and the importance of protecting that entire chain. If I'm a CEO and I came to you and I asked you, Brian, will your platform keep my business running during a cyber event? I mean, I'm probably going to expect that I'm going to be attacked, but will you keep me running? Will you keep me in business? What would you say?
Well, yeah, great question. Well, me as a CEO, I'm always looking at what would I do to protect my own data. So I look at my clients' data the same way. And so, we are on the, for example, with Sophos on the latest, we push the latest tools, and we are looking at things in real time all the time. So you have if there is a 0-day possible vulnerability and hopefully captured upstream, and we've already are ahead of it from the speed of patching. I can give you guys, honestly, I give you dozens of stories of companies that were ransomware, and some went out of business. And you can look it up. A company called EYP out of Texas. They were using us as a consultant. They didn't listen to us. They were a $400 million company with about 800 employees. They went out of business overnight. And I've tried to call the CEO prior to, because I knew that they had issues. And, the people that I was talking to, they were not really listening. So I make sure, as Advanced 2000, obviously, we want you as a business owner to have complete visibility over your stuff. So we created this dashboard that allows that complete visibility over your health. It's like, again, going to the doctor and getting, here's my blood markers, and they're all look within the good parameters. And you can look at that anytime, any second. And that spans across multiple technology, includes technology like Sophos component. We have Sophos, we have Barracuda, we have Microsoft, we have, all of them. So you're able to get this as a business owner, because IT is such a critical function. Every file, every transaction, everything goes through the IT system. So you have to have, you as a business owner, I think, and I still see it with a lot of businesses don't have that. They just don't. Are we doing backups? Oh yeah, we're doing backups, but have we tested our backups? They don't ask. They're not getting into these type of details. And if you can get an executive, I looked at it from an executive standpoint. Me as a CEO, I want to have an executive dashboard where I can see in real time all the important components of my IT. That's because it's such a critical function to the business. That includes, one of them is backup. One includes the patching, the security, the real threat detection, the recoverability speed, and so that visibility is very, very important. So if you're not our customer, and that I encourage you to be our customer and Sophos customers. If you're not, really these webinars for us is to really educate you. And one job you can do for yourself, a favor you can do for yourself, check to make sure that you're always on the latest patches all the time, at least every week, and make sure your backups are immutable and are offline, and they are actually not corrupt. So those are some of the basic tips that I would give you, or if you're an IT guy, to do as an IT person for a company.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you. And thank you everyone for participating today. We're still open for a few more minutes if anyone has a question, but I want to thank our guests from Sophos, and I want to just invite Ed or Dave, any closing comments?
No.
Yeah, we'd love to hear people's questions.
There we go. Go ahead, Ed. You go first there, sir.
No, I was just saying nothing from my end. Just want to say business continuity as a whole, no matter what topic of attack you're talking about is a distributed problem, right? It's not one platform or one item that's going to solve every problem. And it's like Brian said, right? You've got the security platform, you've got backup and recovery, you've got incident response capability, you've got business continuity, right? And even leadership. Who's going to make that decision at 2 a.m. on a Saturday when the event actually occurs? So it's important to make sure that as a business you have all your bases covered right at each level.
Great.
And yep. And I think that that really kind of speaks to the value of organizations, IT providers, organizations like Advanced 2000. And I mention this because I really do believe in the power of that, simply because I don't think that there's a tool problem out there. There's millions of tools. It's a business problem. It's being able to manage, have somebody devoted to watching your security, have professionals involved in your business so you can be a financial organization, so you can be a manufacturer, and you can focus on those things. And so I think that having that personal IT team like Advanced 2000 accessible to businesses is really going to be critical in helping keeping cybersecurity incidents at bay.
Brian, any closing thoughts?
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Dave. I appreciate the kind words. What I do tell business owners, the IT staff that you have, they basically it's a lot on them. In the past, IT staff could handle a lot of things. Nowadays, with the sophistication of these attacks, with the advancement of AI, you got to partner your IT staff. You have to partner with great companies, whether you partner with us or anyone, to really help you. I mean, we've seen also situations where we have one of our clients that was partnered with the wrong company, and they had a disaster recovery solution, and nothing about that solution was recovery from disaster. And luckily, we took a snapshot of their data 2 weeks prior, and that business, it's a business down in South Carolina, would have been completely out of business. It's a large architectural firm, would have been completely out of business. It was by sheer luck that because they decided to use us, and their disaster, they got ransomware in the interim, and their disaster recovery didn't work. And again, that's because they have not tested their backup. They've not tested their resiliency and all these type of things. It is a business problem. It's not simply a technology problem. And a lot of companies out there, they can't do it by themselves anymore. It'll be very, very difficult to do by yourself and being able to be on top of all these things.
All right, Ed,
So
Dave, Brian.
give a break. I want to say, give a break to your IT guy. He's probably getting burnt out. Or she or he are getting burnt out. So give them a break, because it is a tough job to do it all by yourself, if they are doing it by themselves.
Great message. Thank you, Brian, Ed, Dave. Really appreciate your joining us today. It was a great conversation, and we'll turn it over to Katie now.
I just want to say thank you to Brian, Ed, and Dave for joining us today, and thank you to Joe for leading the conversation. Feel free to reach out and continue the conversation. Brian and team would love to hear from you. Reach out with any questions, and feel free to follow us on social and via our website for any updates, and stay tuned for more information on our next webinar. Thanks, everybody.
Or any topics,
Have a great day.
Any topics you want to see.
Yes, any topics you'd like to see. We'd love to cover it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.